That's something I've been wondering. I bet you we'd have to overlay music.
Overlaying's usually the route that I go. I don't want to risk having the audio mix up and have it all in
Yeah,
one
that's probably the
one
best bet.
file that I can't do anything with.
Oh, I forgot. You do YouTube, so you understand
Yeah.
Drew's pain half the time. I don't fool with it hardly. I hate it.
I didn't used to until I started just like randomly uploading videos. I didn't know jack about actually like video editing or anything at all. Like I was very mildly tech savvy, but I didn't know anything about the finer points of actually doing video creation. And I've slowly kind of built those skills up since I had my channel about a year and a half now.
Well, good for you, because my skills are not getting better.
It's all right. I'm working on it.
I'm very basic even still, so don't feel bad.
I've started the shorts for us. So yeah, guys, go check out the Cataclysmic Gamers YouTube channel. And tonight we've got a guest, the Avid Herpetologist.
How's it going?
Woo!
Thanks for having me.
No problem. You can check him out on YouTube too. I know that he is a big Machinedramon fan.
Absolutely right.
That's how I found your channel, is watching some Machinedramon videos.
I get that a lot. Very popular deck for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have been doing various trading card games since I was a youngin'. First card game I actually was really playing because I collected Pokemon cards when I was very little. Middle school, got a friend group at the lunch table, and we would play Duel Masters. I don't know if you guys remember the card game Duel Masters.
Yep.
It was like this weird hybrid, but it actually borrowed some of Digimon's current rules, like the whole 5 shields thing. Duel Masters did that first. At least I'm pretty sure they did it first. I played Duel Masters. I played Chaotic for a little while when that was a card game that existed. And then when I got into college, I started with Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, and then when the Digimon card game came out, it was so different mechanically than all of the other games I'd played. Got hooked immediately. I love mechanically how the Digimon card game works.
Yep. Memory gauge. That's what's up.
That's what sold it on me when Drew was telling me he was stocking shelves at Walmart. And he was telling me, hey, this memory gauge thing. I was like, oh, all right. And I looked into it, and I agree that was one of the coolest things about Digimon.
The whole concept of your turn being tied to your resources is just very unique. Makes the gameplay very dynamic, in my opinion.
I like that you get to decide how much, outside of memory setting timers, this is how much memory I'm giving my opponent to work with.
Yep.
So you said you started with the Duel Masters and Chaotic and that kind of thing. What about your history with Digimon? Did you ever watch Digimon, or was it just like you saw the card game? Or
Oh no, absolutely loved Digimon when I was a kid. Digimon has always just been how would you guys even describe it? Like its presence in the state has been such an ebb and flow. Like it's something that gets super popular for a couple years, and then you just stop hearing about it altogether, and then all of a sudden it's back again, and then it vanishes again. And I was always there when it came back. Like I watched the original season all the way through, loved season 2. Season 3, I think, is still to date probably my favorite. I love the Tamer season. Even though Machinedramon's not in it, it's still my favorite season. I love everything about it aesthetically. I love the tone. It's a great show. Frontier was okay. I think I don't hate Frontier as much as I think a lot of people tend to, but Frontier is all right. But yeah, I've always enjoyed Digimon. We collected the toys. I still have actually some of the old original cards that came out for the game.
Same
the ones
here.
that the EX1. Yeah. The ones that the first EX1 set was based off. I still have a bunch of those. Yeah, those two.
Still got a binder of them.
Yeah, I don't have them conveniently nearby me, but I still have a big stack of them. We used to find them at yard sales and stuff all the time, and I'd always pick them up anytime I saw them.
All the time. There was everybody would always have Pokemon cards and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Digimon was long dead. So I would find them and be like, oh yeah, they would be dirty and grimy. I have a bunch that are just mangled that I still kept.
Yep.
And then you found your little mini toys.
Oh yeah, yes, because I was older. Speaking of that ebb and flow, I was a little bit older, and my little brother was getting into animes and stuff, and Pokemon was never his thing. He didn't. I was like, Digimon's a little more, I want to say, for an older audience. Got him hooked on Digimon, and yeah, so he got all the new wave of toys that everybody started putting out, and I was like, yes, now.
Yeah, it's like the edgier version of like Pokemon, where you have guns and pectorals.
Yes. Scantily clad Digiwomen.
Right. It's definitely advertised as more like the edgier. I don't even know if adult is like the right word for it, but it's definitely the more mature version of Pokemon for sure.
It was definitely like preteen, like coming into your adulthood type thing.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
absolutely. Which is, I think it's carried through, like with the new movie that just came out. Like that was deep.
It got dark too. They were not afraid to get dark with the new movie. I was shocked watching it in theaters.
We were
I still haven't got to play. I haven't got to play Survive yet, but that's one I want to play because that's definitely got the dark vibe too.
Oh, Survive is great. Loved it. Loved the combat, but yes, it's dark. It got jump scared me, which I'm a scaredy cat. I get scared really easy anyway. But yeah, I love that game.
I've been slowly grinding my way through Cyber Sleuth. I hear glowing, like people love Cyber Sleuth. It's just the visual novel style is just like not really my cup of tea. I like the combat sort of, but like to really get into the game, you have to really like be into that graphic or that visual novel kind of style of gameplay, and it's just it's not really for me. But I'm still working through it.
Jordan would be offended right now. Die hard Cyber Sleuth fan.
Oh yeah, he even got it for me for Christmas. Like that's how hardcore he was.
You gotta play this.
In my save file, I do have Machine Dramon and Chaos Dramon following me around, so there is that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm guessing your favorite Digimon is Machine Dramon.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's easily number one. There's a couple of close seconds, but I think Machine Dramon is definitely number one.
So you said you played other TCGs like Yu-Gi-Oh and MTG. Does your play style lean to the same kind of play style in the other games?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. So I don't know how familiar you are with Magic the Gathering, like as a game or really the social aspect of it, but there are like player profiles that people use to describe like your game style. And the one that has always defined me very well it's called Timmy, which is basically just the very like beat 'em up, play big things, very stompy kind of play style. And I mean, if that's not Machine Dramon to a T, I don't really know what is. So I would say it definitely carries over. I love playing the big splashy beat 'em up kind of decks for sure.
Yeah, I was watching your Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Masochist video today. Oh man, I couldn't. I'm excited for the app to drop for Digimon, just so I can start playing more mobile.
Mm-hmm.
They're still all right, but I'm a very mobile person.
Yeah,
with 2 kids,
I'm kind of right there with you. I would definitely play it more if it was on mobile for sure.
It's the main way I play Pokemon is when live came to the phone. That's the majority of I play. Even it's like, oh, I've got some downtime at work. I'm taking lunch. It's like I can grind out a couple matches of Pokemon.
Just a few. 2 hours later. Oh wait.
Oh god.
That is true. There is kind of that downside of when you have access to those games on your phone, because I'm definitely the same way where I can lose myself and one game very quickly turns into 10 and all of a sudden you're hours from where you had thought that you were going to be calling it for the night. I've definitely had a couple of gaming sessions that have gone to 1 or 2 a.m. by accident, completely by accident.
Yeah, I've done a couple of MTG Arena drafts and got caught up, and I'm like, I got one more game in me. Oh, I've already lost twice. I could just lose one more time and it's done. And then I go on a win streak. And
I used to play the crap out of Arena, but I stopped when they kind of messed with like historic and started putting all of the custom cards and stuff in there and bringing in legacy cards and all this stuff. And I'm just like, all right, well, that's not really what I'm playing Arena for. I was here for just standard and extended standard, and now they're like custom doing all this stuff. I'm like, this just doesn't appeal to me as much anymore.
I'm a big draft fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the thing. They've lost the identity of why. So, if you wanted to play Commander or Legacy or anything like that, most of those players prefer the physical adaptation of it. That's what they're going to spend their money on. Whereas you want to play Standard, it's just like Pokemon Live or Master Duel, or, this is why I'm playing this, is for this format, not, all this other stuff.
Yep. I'll be honest, since you mentioned draft, I actually think Digimon is missing out on a golden opportunity by not pushing that concept more. I actually think the pre-release format they do anytime there's a new set drop is like one of the most fun ways of playing the game. Like, it's so fun in those limited environments. And when they dropped the RB1 set not long ago with all the reprints, that would have been literally the perfect set for them to have really aggressively pushed the concept of doing a draft format, and they didn't. And everyone, like, there were some very strong opinions on that set. Like, people were either really happy with the reprints or they were really aggressively against them. And if they had just pushed the concept of like, hey, this is a good set for draft, I feel like the reception could have been so much more positive than it was. That would have been a fantastic set to draft and just play with pre-release rules. I'm so upset I never got to do that.
Yeah. I think that would be a really good set. It kind of reminds me of when Yu-Gi-Oh! Tried to do the draft thing. What was the set called?
Oh, the battle packs. I think is it. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I pulled Tour Guide and it was game over right there.
I actually had just really started getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Around when the first battle pack dropped. I still remember picking up a bunch of staples trying to get into the game because of battle pack Epic Dawn.
Yeah.
Fiendish Chain and a bunch of other staples from the time.
It was a good time. So what color do you lean more towards? I know Machine Dramon's black, but do you lean towards black decks mostly, or
what's weird? I kind of do. Like, yeah, I actually do seem to lean almost more towards black, which is actually pretty counterintuitive to how I play in like every other card game. Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm almost exclusively playing water-centric archetypes. In Magic the Gathering, I'm almost exclusively blue and green. And then Digimon came around, and it's just like hard and black. Like, that's like the primary color that I play. And I dabble in a lot of the other colors. Like, I play the other like decks that I'm really enjoying right now are Green Tyrannomon and like Aegistramon I keep up with in blue. But I just can't get into like any of the big meta decks in the other colors. I don't know what the issue is. I played Alphamon for a little bit in black. I've tried Justamon. I've played black blockers. Like, I've done so many different black archetypes. That's definitely the color I seem to favor more so than the others.
Yeah, I saw that green Tyrannomon deck. It's a nice little toolbox. I enjoyed the video.
It's something different.
I've got to get my video made up. My Rust Tyrannomon deck I'm taking to Concord for the regional.
Heck yeah. So, best of luck to you.
Yeah, we're all hyped for that trip. We got like 2 weeks.
Yes, soon, very soon. It's closing in
soon,
fast.
TM. So is there any colors that you just absolutely despise?
I don't think there's any colors that I despise. If there's colors that definitely don't really fit my playstyle as well, I would say both purple and yellow I've definitely played the least. Like, even when there's something that I would feel incentivized to play, like Leviathan, checks so many boxes for me as a player, like archetype. First of all, it's a giant alligator, which is definitely my thing as the Avid Herpetologist. And I actually wanted to build Leviathan. I think I ended up not doing it mostly just because it ended up being a little pricey. Getting copies of actual Leviathan and Leviathan X is a little on the expensive side. But like, I've also wanted to build Ravemon and just never did. I did build Yellow Vaccine. I just never play it. There's just something about the way that those colors function that's just not really my cup of tea. And I don't have anything against those colors. They're just not for me.
I can see that. So you mentioned the Tyrannomon and Machine Dramon. What other decks are you playing right now?
So Aegistramon is one that I keep up with quite a bit. I think that the gameplay style of playing things out of sources is a ton of fun, and I think there's a lot of untapped potential in terms of card design. I'm really excited for the next EX set coming out that brings the what is it, like the what are they called, the Far East Digimon support. There's the whole line with like what was it, Jing Penmon, I think it's called.
Oh yeah, Jordan's been talking about those.
It's a new like fish avian hybrid line that's meant to be like play from sources support. It looks like really solid. Like if you actually build for it, it has some pretty cool play patterns. But Seedramon is also one of my like top favorite Digimon behind Machinedramon. So as soon as Aegistramon really started picking up and was like, okay, now there's all these playable Seedramon that you can actually build the deck around, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely hard in on this archetype, and I'm going to definitely be keeping up with it. Sweet. So definitely I've got Aegistramon built. I have that. Other just like, those are like the three big ones right now for me are the Machinedramon, Tyranno, and Aegis, but I also am currently toying with Agumon in the new format. Just playing like champion aggro with like some of the new BT14 Skull Greymons, things like that. And then I'm also really having fun with the Dark Masters archetype with the Omnimon toolbox.
I was about to say, you got 2 out of 4 of those Dark Masters. You should be playing it too.
Absolutely
I really enjoyed when the game first came out, slamming down a Puppetmon.
Yes.
Just suspend your opponent. Like,
absolutely.
That was the good time. That was good times.
One of the first decks I ever built when the game was like first coming out. Now, granted, I never got to really physically play it a lot because actually finding stores supporting it was so difficult when the game first started. But Megazoo was one of my first decks I ever built. I loved the like original iteration of Megazoo.
Here's all the memory, but you got to deal with this thing, and there wasn't a whole lot of cards to deal with those kind of big beefy monsters at the time. So how do you feel about the direction of the game going forward with the unification and all that stuff?
As far as the like, you're talking about the unification between like our version of the game and the Japanese version.
Yeah.
Trying
with everything coming together.
I have a feeling there's going to be some growing pains. That's my initial come down is when we start hitting the sets that they're kind of like chopping up to help get us caught up. I think it's going to be a bit of a mess seeing what the formats look like for us over here. But I mean, I think they've announced at least loosely like what that's going to look like. And I mean, it's not the first time that we've had formats that have like differed greatly from what Japan has had, because we've gotten promos at different times as them. I mean, heck, we didn't even get the security rookies until they weren't even relevant anymore.
Yep.
So like we've it's not the first time we're going to have like a format that Japan never had. But it's definitely going to be weird kind of getting this weird influx of different cards at different times. Kind of similar to what we had during the first few sets, I guess, with like BT 1 through 3 being chopped up into different sets. I as far as like the actual unification, I don't really care too much. I'm kind of hoping that they're going to use this as an excuse to be a little more proactive with managing the competitive scene with things like the ban list. I know the ban list is kind of controversial. Like some people want it more active, some people want it less active. I personally think that it needs to be at least slightly more regular, if nothing else. They need to at least be regular with like, we're going to be updating the ban list, or at least making an announcement regarding the ban list here. Even if it doesn't have to be every set, but at least give us an idea of like, okay, we're going to try to touch on the ban list at this point in time, rather than just like randomly dropping the news on us out of nowhere. Because I don't know if you guys are, how much you guys were affected, but like, I think it was last year's Nats when they dropped the ban list like right before the actual Nationals event, and just kind of threw everything through a loop where like Crossheart got massively demolished. And there was a lot of debate as to whether or not they were going to end up hitting like Black War, because that was the deck to beat at the time when BT11 first dropped. And they didn't end up doing it before Nats, but I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think they hit it like right after Nats.
Yeah,
but because they don't really communicate when the ban list updates are going to happen, there was a lot of nervousness leading up to the big event. Like, well, are they going to do something like right before this big event? Am I going to have to completely relearn the format? Like, what's going to happen? And just really the only thing I've ever wanted is just a little more transparency on how the game is being handled.
I totally agree with that. And I think the issue that bothers me the most is it fluctuates our market drastically.
Mm-hmm.
When anyone hears new support, the market will spike. And then when we see ban lists, they're like, oh no, like, do we buy it? Do we go ahead and sell? And it's just this weird time of, like you said, it's just this real tense moment. Like, okay, this is a very meta deck. There's the hearsay of Ukamon, wanting to ban Ukamon already. but we're getting support for it, so it's like, what's going to happen? Like, there's no, like you said, there's not enough talk. It'll be like what, a week, sometimes a month at most, and then it's like, okay, this is happening, and then Japan gets it, and then all right, NA, you're going to get this in a month from now. So yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. How that it sucks.
And I do, right, exactly. Touching on that too, with the kind of what we're talking about as far as like the delays with the ban list between the announcements here in the States versus when they actually apply, like in Japan. Like Apoclymon is a fantastic example. Like the incentive for a lot of people, at least in my local playgroup, to actually buy into like boxes from BT15 massively tanked, because that pretty much like the chase secret from that set is about to get hit.
Yeah.
And was it a necessary hit? Absolutely. Like, it very clearly was. It was obviously a problematic card, and it needed to have that happen, but kind of it's in this weird situation where, like, on one hand, I'm kind of glad we didn't have to live through the absolute, Apoclymon and / purple hell that Japan had to live through for all those months, where they had to deal with it at full power for all that time. But at the same time, when we know it's coming, it kind of kills some of the hype for the set, because that the chase card from that set is not going to actually be a chase card.
Yeah.
Yep.
You only need one. So it's like...
Apoclymon caused his own apocalypse.
I blame more Garurumon than Apoclymon, to be completely
you're right. That is true.
Listen, that's another thing too, is like, it was during that time, I was like, you know what? Previous sets, when I knew something was going to be banned, I would go ahead and be like, all right, I'm not even going to spoil myself. I'm just going to build it post-ban list. But not with Garurumon. I was like, nope, we're building him right now. We're going to play him at full power while I can, because he's gone after this. He's going to be a shell.
Yep, quite a few people in my locals did the exact same thing. And honestly, the biggest heartbreak with Apoclymon is knowing that he was such an easy card to fix. All they had to do was just not make him generic for all level 6s, and I personally think the problem solved itself. All you had to do was just not let him abuse these generically broken on-plays like Craniumon, Magnadramon, and Metallic Dramon. If you just specifically make him only usable with the 4 Dark Masters that they released, it's still a good deck. Like, to be fair, it may still have been broken, but we'll never know, because they decided to make it generic, and it's too easy to abuse with all of these other cards that never even belonged in the archetype.
And that's, because we done had Royal Knights. We done had an Omnimon that specifically, and a bunch of Royal Knights that really only work in this deck. And they did it with all the Dark Masters. The Dark Masters really are best only in this deck. Like, you can splash some of them here and there, but it works best here. So why? But why did they not do that? What I'm saying is, someone was sitting like we are right now, and they're like, no. It's Apoclymon. We got to make him cool. We got to make him good, And then they were like, oh no, what have we done?
Yeah, absolutely.
Their R&D team is like 2 people that sit in the room and they're like, I like your idea. Why just make it Dark Masters? Let's make all of them. Let's use every level 6 in the game.
I'm actually glad you brought up the topic of Royal Knights specifically, because I praised the card design for the Royal Knights archetype so much when it first dropped. It was fantastic. I wasn't really sure how they were going to be able to make it, if they were going to do standalone archetype or like what. But every one of those cards, I shouldn't say, maybe most of the cards from that archetype, they did a fantastic job of incentivizing you to play them in the Royal Knights archetype, while still simultaneously making them very good support for their own collective decks. Like, most of the cards from the Royal Knights deck, you can play in their own strategies, or you can play them as a full Royal Knight strategy.
Yep.
And they found this fantastic balance where those cards were able to do like 2 jobs without really detracting from either, or like really prioritizing one versus the other. And then when the Dark Masters archetype rolled around, and it's like, oh, well, they can't digivolve unless they're digivolving into a white. Also, they delete themselves at the end of the opponent's turn. It's like, all right, well, now we can't do anything with these. They're literally meant to be played in Dark Masters, and that's like exclusively it. And that's kind of unfortunate, because they're cool. Like, the concept of being able to cycle through megas and hard play megas, like, that's what people want. Like, that's what the original Dark Master printings in the first couple of sets were themed around. And then when they go with this retrain to try to make them a collective archetype, they don't bother errating the old cards, which I'm still mad about, by the way. I don't know why they didn't at least errata the BT1 versions to make them playable. And then they're like, all right, well, also these are not really playable at all unless you're strictly playing them in this one archetype. I don't understand why they did it personally, but they had the blueprint right there with Royal Knights.
Well, that's coming up too with these Three Musketeer drops.
Yep.
And that's going to be an issue because it doesn't, they don't mesh. So now you're losing out on all of that old stuff that's already been out and not going to be able to use it in the new deck.
Yeah, you're hoping for Three Musketeer support, and we got it. And, you know, there's the group that's like, oh, it's not Billstar Mon. I love Billstar. I really do. But, I mean, we've said errata a bunch tonight. And that's one thing. Two things I really want Bandai to start doing is we've banned things and we've limited them to one. We have taken things off the ban list. Now we need to work on more limited bans, like, you know, 2 ofs or, and just errata the card. Just errata the card. It's so simple. They can print them really easy again. We done see that. You know, with the
they're professionals at going back and reprinting stuff that they've messed up
and giving us those packs. So, like you said, a Pokemon could have been fixed with just a simple errata, and the set still would have been sought after. He still would have been, and you know, people still playing the deck, and it's just not. I don't know. That's just something they need to work on. Let's just work on. Hey, let's change a couple words around. Let's add a word here. You know, let's just limit it, and then you don't have to ban a card.
It is a bit of a slippery slope because I mean, look at games like Yu-Gi-Oh where they've kind of taken erratas to like the opposite extreme, where they've taken like some of the really old cards and they errata them so aggressively that they're functionally just a completely different card to the point where they're literally unplayable.
Yep.
Look at cards like Chaos Emperor Dragon or Crush Card Virus that, you know, used to be these, you know, unstoppable menaces back in their time. But then in order to bring them off the list, they give them these erratas where it's not even the same card. So like, why bother bringing it off at all? Like, just leave it the same card that it was. Like, if it's too strong still, that's fine. Like, leave it on the ban list. But I would rather it maintain the same like legacy that it's always had than be this neutered version that's not even playable.
They just need to stop using AI to translate their cards for them. They need to get some people to actually sit down and do it.
Well,
that too.
Like I said, we're gonna see the pressure. The pressure is going to be on when, you know, convergence. So the convergence is happening. We'll probably definitely see a lot of mess ups, a bunch.
Oh, it's coming. I feel like there's going to be a rocky road going into the combined thing.
And I'm prepared for it. You know, and like that's something I love this card game and Magic. I like card games in general. But Digimon is something that I think I want to absorb its content in any way possible, whether it's a book, an anime, a manga, graphic novel, card game, video game, whatever. I just, you know, just give me more of it.
Listen, I sat in the parking lot for an hour, my entire hour lunch break, just to get to the very last page of Liberator. Like,
boy, that was brutal.
It was so bad. They were not ready. They were just standing there looking at the servers, and they're just on fire. And they're like,
I'm curious. Do either of you guys have a Vital bracelet?
Yes. Oh, actually,
I just charged somewhere around here, and then I've got this little guy sitting on the desk.
You want to talk about heartbreak? I was so happy to get my Vital bracelet, and I really enjoy it for what it is. But man, when they got rid of the old app, and you just kind of realize that there's just nothing to it more than just an egg raising simulator. It's so disappointing. Like the hardware is there, and it's like it's good, and they just aren't doing anything with it. It's such wasted potential. They could do so much with that concept. It breaks my heart that they're not. It's right there. Man, so many people want that.
Yes.
We've got AI coming out right now. You can train a Digimon how to be your partner with AI. Come on, somebody do it.
Somebody do it, please.
I don't know why you would limit things, and I think there is a reason behind it. It's they don't either have enough staff or hands in their kitchen to keep everything running and stuff. But when they got rid of the app, it really sucked. I mean, that was one of the coolest parts. Like, I would be like, all right, I'd get up for work in the morning. I'd be like, oh, got to train before I go to work. And then I feel with my job, I'm a merchandiser, so I would have to go to these gas and goes at like Food City and Kroger and stuff. And I would just tap my little vital bracelet on every gas pump as I went by. So I'd be like, oh, new battle. Fill the soda. New battle. And I don't know. Like you said, there's so much potential for a lot of this stuff. I wonder what actually goes on through their brains or, in their meetings. They're like, oh, we're going to take this away. And I'm assuming it has to do with lack of manpower or lack of finance for they're not making as much off that anymore. So they move on to the next thing, which sucks.
That's the part I really don't get, though. Like, they bothered to go ahead and at least service, to a certain extent, a new app. Yeah. Or adapt it in some way. But it was like, I don't think many people would disagree. It was in every way like a universal downgrade.
Yep.
Like, what was the point? Just, like, if you don't want to keep updating the old one, that's fine. But, like, why take it down and then create this new one when the new one is strictly worse?
It's it's more buggy, and not even the bugs. It's just less info, less access.
Yeah, it is.
You can't do as much with it. It's just like I feel like they made it. Once again, they made it stupidly kid friendly. Maybe I don't know, and
I don't even know if it's that. It's like loading screens are the worst for me. It just takes forever to load anything on that app.
Yeah. Not just the page swap, and it would just go to it.
They're just trying to put their hands in too many pots.
Yeah, that could be it too.
That's what it boils down to. One of the card games that I visited while I was in Louisville, they have a YouTube channel. Shout out Cardinal Gaming. But they dropped a video talking about One Piece, and they were talking about how hard it is to get anything from Bandai. So, like, when a store sets up through the Bandai TCG app, he was talking about how they do their pre-releases or their starter deck kits. And they apply to do this months in advance. And they don't even send the decks. They're like, how many people are you going to have? And you say, okay, well, I need 2 starter kits. Well, then you have to go order the starter kits and hope that you get them because you've already signed up for the tournament. But if you don't get those starter kits, then you can't do the tournament that you promoted to all the players. So Bandai just makes it really hard for any card store to do anything TCG related.
Yep. Doesn't help that they're also trying to run like 3 card games at a time right now.
Yeah, and that goes into the whole tournament thing. Digimon in Japan, best of 1. All of their games are best of 1. They want you to get in, play your cards, get out, or go to the next card game.
Yeah.
And over here, they brought Digimon as best of 3 because that's what all the other card games were doing. Was Dragon Ball best of 3 whenever it dropped?
It was best of 3, and it actually went to a best of 1 before Digimon came out. I think it was already in Japan, and that's when Dragon Ball Super switched to a best of 1. And trust me, the matches fly. And I mean, it's just a different format completely. When you're building a deck for a best of 1 scenario, toolbox decks are a nightmare. And then there's some very pro things about best of 1, and there's some big cons to me about best of 1. But yes, you can't build a structure. You need to. Dragon Ball had a very hard time growing pains when we transferred to best of 1. It was rough.
And so you got One Piece that's doing best of 1, and you've got Digimon over here doing best of 3 just over here in the States. So that's why these tournaments are always capped. You don't have as many people being able to join because they're like, hey, we got to cut this off because it's going to last way longer than the 8 hours that we booked the venue for if we have too many players come join.
Don't even get me started on the online events.
I gosh, I've done one, and I don't want to touch anymore.
I've done 4, and I want stuff, but they are so miserable for me to sit in this chair. And dear God, it's 10 hours sometimes of you just sitting in this room. Oh, it's
Yep.
ugh.
I mean, I'll just be straightforward. I haven't done any of the events because I haven't even tried to join them. I just have absolutely no interest in doing these. Not only the fact that you just said, I don't want to have to sit in this spot for 10 hours. One of the biggest facets of the game, or of any card game for me, is the social aspect. There's no one sitting across from me.
Yep.
It's less fun. It's like half of the enjoyment for me is having somebody on the other side of the table that I can be interacting with. If that's not there, then that's already half the fun gone for me. And this doesn't even get into the allegations that I've heard of multiple people who join and say that there's cheating that happens. Because from my perspective, even if cheating isn't happening, because like I don't want to be like one of those people like, oh, well, I don't want to do the online events because people cheat. Not necessarily, but at the same time, it opens up the possibility that wouldn't exist, or at least opens new opportunities that wouldn't exist if you're playing in person.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be constantly like super focused on the pixels on the screen just to make sure that there's no cards slipping where they shouldn't be, so on and so forth. That's just a level of stress I don't need when I'm playing.
Oh, we could go on all day. Like the first, because when it happened, COVID was the thing, and I was like, I will take Digimon in any way I can get it. But then after playing in, several online Discord events and stuff, if their webcam's bad, listen, I have endured some terrible webcam angles. You feel rude, but I'm like, hey, can you move that? Or there's a glare. I can't see it, or they feel like I'm slow playing them because I'm like, okay, now wait, is that this version of Agumon?
Right.
Which Agumon's that? So yeah, that's just a lot of hassle. And like you said, it's just cheating. Like you're hoping everyone will be super friendly and honest. But and I guarantee you, my first 4 matches, people's like, oh, that Nightmares is a great dude. And then if I make it, where I'm doing well, my last stretch, my energy just plummets. So my opponents are like, God, this guy's a douchebag. He's because I'm tired. I don't have this energy anymore. I've spent it all. It's the first 5 hours took it out of me. So my last 3 matches,
and one of the big benefits of being at an in-person event, like using nationals is a great example. In between your rounds, especially if you have a group that you go with, which I always encourage people to do, because going to those events by yourself is all well and good. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But going with a group of friends where you can just kind of like shoot the breeze and just kind of decompress between your games kind of gives you that little kick that you need to get through the rest of the day. It just doesn't exist when you're doing online events. You're just in it, and you're not really able to get out of it. You like go and get a snack, but what are you really able to do to like lose some of that stress in between your rounds? You're basically just sitting and waiting for the timer to run out so you can start your next one.
Yes. And you're checking Discord constantly. Like, oh, wait, because, okay, from a dad perspective, I have my lovely wife. She knows nothing about Digimon. Yeah. So I'll be like, babe, had this awesome match. Listen. And she's like, well, oh, okay, good. Good, babe. And I just go back in here. Or my kids will be creating havoc. So yeah, online was good for its time, and I get, like we said, there's a lot of people that don't have a local Digimon scene. Like ours is pretty good.
Yes,
ours is pretty good. I'm hoping yours as well. Is your local scene really good?
Very, very. Yes, very fun, very active locals group.
So
definitely wouldn't still be in the game as long as I have been if it weren't for them.
So I mean, for us, I feel like I don't understand. I do, because there was a time where product was scarce and everything. But I feel for those people that they're like, I drive 2 hours to locals. I'm like, that's not really locals anymore. That's like,
yeah. It is. It's this weird thing where, exactly like you said, there are benefits to it, and I openly recognize them, which is why I'm not more vocal about disliking them, because I recognize there are benefits, and for some people, those online events are how they're able to play.
Yep.
It's just when you start getting into, like you said, competitive scenes, especially when there are prizes on the line. And a lot of these online events have had some very high incentives for
Yes.
people to be doing well. Not only is that going to breed a very high competitive atmosphere where people are going to be more cutthroat, and part of what comes with that is, like we talked about, incentive to cheat. You never know.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a double-edged sword.
Serialized Omnimons. Need we say more? I feel like that is some of the best.
Serialized Omnimon. Boy, one of the last online events had one of the coolest Machinedramon playmats I've ever seen in my life.
Oh,
I almost applied for that one just for the chance to get that.
yeah. Well,
But I couldn't bring myself to do
well,
it. I just couldn't.
well, this came out of left field because for the longest time we had really generic Bandai support. Don't get me wrong, the first was cool, and I remember their first wave of events. We got a lot of physical prizing, like boxes of cards and stuff when you won.
Yep.
And then they went away from that for a little while. They gave us memory markers and stuff, but now it feels like, we begged and pleaded. They've ramped up their prize support again. But yeah, like you said,
they've massively pumped it up.
And we were paper deck boxes, and now we're like, oh, that's a sick playmat, or I don't think people understand serialized Omnimon cards. The main reason the sports card world goes so crazy is when they pull a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 8. It was the same way with Magic with the rings.
Oh gosh, I'll be honest, that was one of the last straws for me with actually getting like sealed Magic product. I'm still upset that they did that. They've been making some questionable choices with the game recently, and I gotta tell you, I was not happy about that.
That was the biggest FOMO push I'd ever seen in my life, to rush out and try to grab a 1 of 1 ring. Was it?
Yep.
Don't get me wrong. I think whoever sit there and goes, what if the 1 ring? And everybody's like, and I agree, it sounded really cool, but to see the prices of this product skyrocket. But like I said, I think serialized cards are a really good incentive to go, because like people said, it'll be cool to have the 69 version of Omnimon or the 420 version of Omnimon, that'll be neat. And it's your card.
But see, that serialized card's done correctly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Having them as prize support in a tournament, that is good incentive to get people to want to participate in those tournaments. When you start inserting serialized cards into packs like Magic decided to, that's when I'm like, okay, see, that's more of just like a blatant money-making scheme at that point, where you're just basically trying to force people to buy your product because they know that there's always that. You're basically turning your packs into lottery tickets, which there's always a loot box aspect to trading card games, but the concept of serialized cards in random packs bothers me to no end. I don't like that Magic did that. Like I said, that was one of my last straws with that game. I still play it once in a while, but I don't do sanctioned events anymore. And that did play a role in why I decided to finally step back from the game.
Well, and even then, it's like you said, having them randomly in there, of course, people come up with, because, Magic didn't say anything. They didn't come out and be like, hey, this. So, of course, everybody's like, we're going to buy these really expensive, limited booster boxes because the chances have got to be better in those, right? So they're done. They're done expensive. And then with that, and nobody corrected them. Nobody oh no, they're not sitting here going, oh no. The chances are all the same, guys. No, they said it one time, and then the train just ran.
Nope, they sat back and they're like, oh, you're willing to buy a bunch more of our more expensive product? I mean, you might be right. I mean, the 1 ring might be in there. I think you should give yourself the best chances possible to pull that 1 ring.
Yep.
It's just so skeezy. I can't stand those kind of business practices. Like I said, I don't have a problem inherently with serialized cards. Like, I think the serialized Omnimons as prize support for big tournaments, I think that is prize support done correctly.
Oh yeah.
You're giving a big, meaningful incentive that people want to go to these tournaments and do well so they can get them. That's how you draw people in and you keep your game healthy, because people want to be playing, want to be competing. And it's a trickle effect, right?
Yep.
Because then you've got the big prize to aim for. Well, I need to be able to do well for that, so I need to go to my local game store and I need to play in my local so I can practice. everything benefits when you have a good prize to aim for from a big event.
Well, and I think that's cool. But it's like, I've been to a couple Pokemon regionals now too. Even the prize support for getting in, like, oh, I get a sweet playmat, or, like you said, you're wanting to get that in Pokemon, you're wanting to get that medal, you're wanting to get your points to go to, nationals. However, with Digimon, the serialized cards are a huge step in the right direction for me. And number 2 is allowing your local game stores to apply for their own 64-man regionals. Because I think that's going to help, because we've been fussing, well, why is it in California, or why is it in North Carolina, or why is it in Texas? Well, if your game store is able to do this now, that means, well, for instance, we have Corbin Cards and Games, and we have CM Games in Knoxville. Maybe they both apply, maybe they both get one. Now that's 2 regionals that are close, then I could potentially go to either or. And I think that will help with Bandai, the TO issues and everything we've kind of griped about. Like, why don't we have more tournament organizers? Or why isn't there more events here, here, and here? And now they're like, hey, you know what? We'll solve this problem and we'll save us some money. We'll send you the stuff. You run it.
Yeah. See, that actually brings up a good point that I was actually wanted to ask you about, you guys specifically. How do you guys feel about the concept of national invites coming from store championships? Because I know that's been a bit of a controversy. I'm curious where you guys come down on it.
Okay. This is funny because in the Discord, we've also talked about one of the topics we wanted to bleed into was the local scene. And local scenes vary drastically. So in other words, when we first started, I would say our local scene would have been kind of a joke to go and there'd be 6 of us and we hold this tournament and I get to go to nationals and we're playing, I don't even know the decks at the time. But then, of course, Digimon grew and we started getting players from, an hour or so away to come to store championships for these invites. And the scene was super competitive. Like when Alphamon was a thing, you're sitting here playing 3 or 4 Alphamons. I guess that's where my opinion sits, is I understand where people are coming from, that your local game scene, no offense to anyone, may not play really relevant decks or really competitive decks.
Sure.
And then you may go to a store where sadly all they were doing during that time was playing Set Control and Leviamon and like that's all you seen. So I didn't care either way. I just thought that there needed to be another way to do it because where the regional scene was so weak, taking away store championships for a bunch of people hurt their chances of, because to me, if Joe Schmo gets it at Kalamazoo, town of 200 people, he still has to go to Nats and compete with whoever that goes to an average of 38 people showing up to his locals playing all meta. So that's where I stood. I didn't see the hurt in it. I felt like we should have just kept them.
Yeah.
Why not just keep them? What's it matter? That's their Bandai's not paying for your travel or your hotel or anything. And they're probably going to spend money while they're at the venue. So to me, it was just a loss for Bandai to take away the store championship invites to Nats.
Yeah. I completely agree with everything that you've said. I mean, I'll just be completely open. Like when I went to nationals, I got my invite through a local store championship. When they took that away, just straight up, my chances of going to nationals hit 0, like just actual 0, because the bottom line is, in order to get an invite, you pretty much had 2 options without the store championships. You either had to compete in an online event and do well, or you had to travel, or were either lucky enough or travel for one of the big regional events. And for our local group, the closest regionals was like 2 states away. So some of us went up there, traveled, the multiple hours car ride, paid for the hotel stay, this, that, and the other, and tried their luck at competing in those events. But for me, I don't necessarily have enough PTO that I can, spare set like an entire weekend just at a chance to be able to have to take more PTO and more time off to go and do nationals afterwards, which is a whole other trip that I now have to do. Like when I went to nationals, that was like the one big travel expense that I had to do for that event. I was able to go to just my local store and get my invite. So all of that finance that I had available for that was able to go towards my plane tickets and my lodging to travel out to LA and do nationals. But once they got rid of the store championships, if I'm spending all of that, time and resources to go and attempt to get my invite at a regionals, that's kind of my budget for nationals already spent. So like, what's the point of going? I'm not going to be, even if I qualify, I don't have the funds necessarily after that to also go to nationals. And there are people out there, and if I get that, the internet's the internet, like people are going to be elitist and gatekeepy in various capacities, but like kind of you hit the nail right on the head where you're like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Joe Schmo who just earns it at like a 10-person locals doesn't deserve it. And I'm like, well, first of all, who are you to decide that? Like, they still got it. And it's not like just because they earned it, like you said, they don't necessarily have the ability to go. Like, they still have to find the means of getting to nationals.
Yep.
And then if they want to do well, they still have to do well. Like, why does it bother you if someone's in there? It should, if anything, be a benefit to you in every possible way. First of all, you have a larger crowd that's helping to fund the game that you enjoy playing. And second of all, by your logic, if this person isn't deserving of being there and you think that they're weaker, it's a free win. Who cares? Like, why would you be concerned about that? It's helping your chances of doing that. Like who is being hurt in that situation if the people you quote unquote deem unworthy? And I want to make sure I'm very clear. I don't think anyone is unworthy. If you earned your invite, go to Nats. Like,
yes.
The whole mindset of like, you're not worthy of being in the room with the big leagues. Like, who are you to decide that? If they got their invite, let them get their invite. And if they don't do well, they don't do well. That doesn't concern you in any way, shape, or form. Let people do what they want. Yeah, all in all, like I was pretty disappointed when they got rid of the store championships, like I said, or at least the invites from store championships, because like I said, for me personally, I wasn't going to nationals once they got rid of those. So, well, that was my one and only bridge.
That was my thing. Like I said, finding the time to be off. One of my big eye-opening moments was at the Pokemon regionals, and there was this group in front of us, and they were in the team event. And one of them said, well, I'll have to sub out. And I was like, wait, why do we have to sub out? He goes, because they were talking about doing well. And they did do well. But he had no more leave. He had no more. So he couldn't miss any more work. So it was like, hey, if we do well here, that's going to put us in the run to go to. I got to be out. Like, we'll have to sub me out because I have. And, that, like I said, that's a huge thing.
It feels bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not everyone is in either a financial or even a professional situation where they can afford to keep taking time and money off to go and keep competing in these big events. Not everyone can afford to do these, to travel, multiple times over the course of a couple months just for the chance of earning that invitation.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing is like you're spending all of these resources. You're not even guaranteed it. You still have to do well when you get to that event. You could spend all of those resources and then walk away with nothing after all of that. And that really feels
that's going to be me after Concord.
Concord, we're going X and 3. We're going to go grab a beer with the boys, and then we're just going to interview people.
Yep.
Because I feel like this is what I've joked about. If I really do well, I probably can't afford to go to Nats, so I don't know what I would do with it anyway. So it's like, this is, like you said, this is my allocation. This trip is basically my nationals. This is my fun time. Go really try to compete and do the best I can and hang out with some buddies. So, yeah.
And see, and on the other side of the coin, right, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you can still use that allocation to go and enjoy regionals.
Yeah.
And, in some ways it can be a little less stressful because you don't have to worry about getting an invite. You can just enter. But again, it's kind of one of those things where like, well, if you're going to go to the regionals, what is it you're aiming for? Because the reason most people go to regionals is for the invite. So if you can't even use the invite, what are you competing for at that point? Like, what's the reason to go to in the first place?
Because I'm old.
A cereal,
Yeah.
a serialized Omni, and a boys
I was
trip.
gonna say, for me, it's that I haven't been able to compete in an actual like major event competitively since I was probably like 19 or 20, when Dragon Ball Z had first came out. So to me, this is like, yeah, this old dog, yeah, he's still got some in him. That's it's just bragging rights at this point if I do well.
Yep. See, for me, it had actually been like a bucket list thing where, as long as I've been in the hobby of playing TCGs, it had always been a goal of mine to like travel for a big event with a group of friends from my locals. Just having that experience of getting everybody with that same shared hobby, traveling somewhere, and just spending that weekend bonding over that hobby. And I'm really glad that I got to have that nationals experience. And let me tell you, it was a memorable one. The very first night we had in our Airbnb, we were psyched and getting ourselves hyped up for the first day of the event the night before. We put on the Digimon movie. We got all the way through our war game, and then the power went out. And it didn't come back on the entire weekend.
Oh, no.
We had no power. We had no hot water. We were taking cold showers between days. And that will forever be our memory of nationals. But I got to tell you, it was memorable.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Oh, my God. That's crazy.
You went straight to the trenches training.
Oh, yeah. What made matters worse, and I didn't even get the brunt of this, so the guys from our group that got there before us, we were actually some of the later comers. Some of them got there like a full day before us. They stocked up on groceries that they couldn't use because we didn't have power.
Oh,
they had gotten
man.
stuff that like they needed the microwave and stuff to actually eat. So there was all of this food that we had gathered for the weekend. We were super hyped. We had all our like bro snacks that we were like super hyped for. And we couldn't even eat half of it.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. Listen,
it was something.
We're going to start a fire if that happens. If that happens at our Airbnb. We them country boys. We're going to eat.
I mean, some of the guys were eating like cold oatmeal. Like that's the level we were at that weekend. It was great. It is a memory we have now, for sure.
Oh, gosh. But that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But I love that sentiment because I think that's the only reason that I still play card games is so I love interacting with people. So, when my social battery's fully charged, that's what I like spending my time on is going out and playing cards or something like that. It's that social interaction is what I crave from a TCG.
Yep.
The only thing that even allowed me to play in online events was my competitiveness. That was it. And then when that runs out, I'm like, I'm done. I don't like this no more.
I mean, heck, when I got married, 3 of the 7 people in my bridal party were people that I knew exclusively through trading card games. Like my 3 closest friends, the only 3 friends that are not direct family who were in my bridal party were my trading card game guys from the state I grew up in.
That's so cool.
Like it's how people like us are able to meet people. I don't go to bars. I'm not a super social person. I bond with people over my hobbies, and that's how I've come to know like all of my close friends. The close friends that I have here and the close friends that I had, back in Maryland where I grew up were people I knew through those games.
Oh, for sure.
That's how me and Jordan, we started hanging out in high school, but like Yu-Gi-Oh started it, and then we jumped back into Pokemon a few years ago, and then now it's Digimon. It's just, that's kind of the thing that keeps us
because
together.
Through that venue, you become actual friends. So, man, this just brings it.
It's your bridge.
Yeah, it brings it full circle, though.
It's your bridge that you kind of use as your foundation, and you can build off of that. But it's for a lot of people, it's your starting point.
Yeah,
that's the common ground that you find, and then you kind of build out from there.
You find out how nerdy or weeby you are.
World of Warcraft, long nights of World of Warcraft. There was a night we were going to check out a college, and him and all my other buddies stayed at my house, and he brought his laptop to be able to play, and his laptop was prone to overheat. Middle of winter, he props my window open, and he has his laptop laying sideways in the window, playing World of Warcraft. Like we're in a raid, and he's like laying up against the window to keep it cool.
Yep. See, for me and my group, a big our like game of choice was always League of Legends. And we don't play League quite as often as we used to for reasons I'm sure you guys can probably already guess.
Oh yeah.
But,
But,
Mikey's going through it right now.
I got back
Mikey's
into
going
it.
through it right now.
I'd quit for 3 years. I was 3 years clean, and now I've started.
I love that phraseology. That is hysterical.
Oh.
I do miss League every once in a while. The last couple of years, we didn't really play on Summoner's Rift a whole lot. It was almost exclusively ARAM.
Yeah.
Like we would literally we would all get home from our jobs and we're like, all right, who wants to hop on and just grind some ARAMs and just have a good time? They'd be drinking. We'd always just be having a good time. Play it for a couple hours until we were either bored or tilted out of our minds, and we'd call it for the night. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
Those were the only times we called.
We're always trying to end on a win. Like if it was we'll be on the
yes. You can't go out on that last humiliating loss. You have to go to the next one. So it's like we either got that win that we scraped by through the skin of our teeth, or we just got so angry we just couldn't do it anymore. And we're like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And we just log out. Those were the two choices.
And you don't even hit log out. It's Alt F4.
Like, I love it.
That's straight Alt F4.
That's League in a nutshell. That is League of Legends. Like, we in one night.
I mean, I can only get pike ulted so many times before I just can't anymore.
Yes.
Like, I literally, I've had enough. I'm like, all right, cool. That's the 5th pentakill this game. I've had enough. Just surrender, please. And let's move on to the next one. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not having fun anymore.
Get me out of here. Get me out. Oh
my gosh! I'm having like war flashbacks now. Oh my gosh!
Oh, I was on an 8-game winning streak the other night, and then I lost like 10 in a row, and I was like, "Man, this is why I don't miss League."
You're on top of the world, but you're gonna end the night at the bottom of the barrel every single time. Oh my gosh! Yeah, I do miss it. It is a fun game, but I swear there's certain aspects of League that are just custom made to piss you off.
Yeah, to be toxic, for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Oh
gosh, I can't even imagine people who actually play that game professionally. Like, what an actual nightmare.
No,
I can't imagine actually having like your bread money being tied to that game.
I think
what
it's
a
where
nightmare.
they only scrim against once you reach that point, you're like, I don't have to play with all these people. I get to play with we can just join a private lobby and we'll scrim. Like
they don't have to be in Elo hell.
Yeah, I will be perfectly clear. I have not played a single solo game in like probably close to 10 years. I can't remember the last time I solo queued in League of Legends. The only times I have played League recently, like I said, I haven't played in about a year, but prior to that, I'd say for about like the last decade or so, if I was playing League, it was with somebody else. Because there's just, I can't do solo League. It's like you said, it's too tailor-made to make people toxic. Whether it's me or somebody else, someone's going to get heated, and that person's going to make everybody else heated. Now everyone's fighting and swearing at each other. It's just not fun.
Everyone's getting
snowballing the other team.
Everyone. I'm reporting every one of you all. Y'all suck. That was funny.
I will say I've been trying to toy with the idea of doing like ARAM live streams with my local group, because a bunch of them play League too, just to do like ARAMs for fun and just try to do like donation incentives, like force us to dive a particular person or something like that. I've been toying with the idea, but I have not actually come up with any like concrete way of going about it yet. But that's another one of those things I've like toyed with for content, just trying to do ARAMs for fun. But like I said, it's been a hot minute since I've logged into League.
I'd watch it. But see, that's why I play card games, because card games for me are for some reason way less stressful than video games. I don't know why. Maybe it's I'm probably a little bit better at card games than I am video games.
It is until you're playing against me, because 9 times out of 10, every time you play me, you're like, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. I quit.
Because there's moments like, so we went to one locals and I was playing Jessmon. I was on a roll. I was doing fine. I go to play Drew. Jessmon builds not only a brick house, but a brick mansion. I give this man my deck. He gives me his Imperial Dramon deck, and he proceeds to steamroll me with this deck. And I'm just like, this is not happening. This is not happening. And that's just, it's like, we're just two sides of the same coin. We just give off that energy like it's destiny. We're just pitted to be against one another, even though we're on the same team.
We're Matt and Ty.
Yep.
That's all there is to it.
And I mean, we've had a few security control players kind of come in and out of our locals, and I gotta tell you, they are some of the nicest people outside of the game. I always feel so bad because they are legitimately like the nicest people, but there's just something about playing against security control that turns me into the most vitriolic person. And I'm not like outwardly mean to these people. I want to make sure I'm very clear about that, but I get very frustrated very quickly. Something about banging my head into a brick wall just isn't enjoyable for me. I don't know what it is. Something about that experience just doesn't do it for me. But I always try to make a point to at least apologize afterwards, because they are just they're nice people, but it's the deck choice. It's the deck choice. Sometimes it's just the decks that people want to play create a little bit more of a frustrating game environment, and that's just how it goes sometimes.
For me, it's Andrew with any deck he plays.
Yep, because I always have to put my control spin on it, and Mikey doesn't like being controlled.
No, not at all. Now, I do play Vaccine, and see, once again, I understand why Drew loves it so much, because when you're controlling the other person, it feels it feels great. But yeah, I noticed that. I do feel like, I'm a really jolly guy, but when people see Patamon, be slapped down and breeding, they're you can tell the tension starts between, you're like,
the tone shift. The tone just shifts.
Oh yeah. They're like, oh good, you're one of those people. It's like, no, I'm really not.
I see that Patamon flip and I'm like, all right, well, guess Machine Dramon's not as safe as I thought he was this game.
Well, that's what's funny. That was the first thing I thought of, because Jordan plays a lot of Machine Dramon. I'm like, this Angemon works really good into his big boy. That was my first thought. I was like, aha, I can stop your dumb metal dinosaur.
Oh my goodness, I'm getting tired.
Yeah, so we can wrap things up. If you want to plug your channel, whatever you got going on.
Sure. Avid Herpetologist on YouTube. I'm actually working on a couple of new project ideas right now. So if you like Magic the Gathering content, Yu-Gi-Oh content, or of course Digimon, especially my Machine Dramon players, feel free to check me out. I'm always trying to try something new and see what kind of content I can make. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll have the link down in the description.
Thank you guys so much for having me on. This was a tremendous amount of fun. I've absolutely loved this.
No problem, man. Anytime. We've been trying to reach out to more people, get more conversations going about the game. Not solely focused on competitive play, but just having the fun of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think it's very easy for people to get tied up in the doom and gloom. Like, there's been a lot of talk about, the game is dying recently. It's not. The game's in, honestly, a pretty good spot right now, and there's a lot of things to really be enjoying about the game. I'm the kind of person I would much rather be focusing on the plethora of positives that we have than, like, the one or two things that there are to be complaining about. And you can, of course, vent about those things.
Yeah.
Make time for the positive talk.
That's for sure. Mikey, you got anything?
Do you have a TikTok or anything else, or just YouTube?
Nope.
Just
YouTube. I've actually very much pulled back on social media outside of like checking my Facebook once in a while and then just making YouTube videos for fun.
Hey, that's really good for you sometimes. there are sometimes with this TikTok thing that I'm like, I need to step away for a minute. It's just
Yep, and that's pretty much it. I had Snapchat for a little while. I tried Instagram, and I'm just like, this is just, it takes up too much time and takes up too much of my mental space. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. It's just not worth it.
Oh, yeah, I do. We have that little care package coming from Prismatic Defender, the orange and black sleeves that we'll be getting. We're going to do a giveaway for those. And I got a playmat or two of their new style of playmat. It promotes the tiger on there a little bit more. We're going to do that a giveaway.
yeah, love these guys. Prismatic Defenders.
That star
Got a
foil.
little bling going on.
That's cool.
What-
Good choice too.
Yeah.
That's all he plays.
That's it. Well, I got Flare. I got Blue Flare, and I've got Bagra Army, and
See, I've got a
Control
deck building
Imperial.
problem. I don't know when to stop building decks because I don't play all of them. I
No.
just like building them.
Yep.
but it's so I won't say cheap, but inexpensive for most decks to build.
Oh,
So
yeah.
why not? I mean, you've got the cards. Just throw it together. Somebody else can always
I
play
just
it.
built that new control Jesmon variant, the security control Jesmon variant. I just built it just because I was like, oh, I see this. And I'm like, this could work. This is going to be toxic when it works. Yeah, but that's it.
Alright. That's it.
Awesome. Well, again,
Thank you
thank you
guys.
so much for having me on. Yeah, anytime. I would be more than happy to chat with you guys again. You seem pretty chill.
Oh, no, it was
All
great
right,
having
no
you.
problem.
I love having
Yeah,
new faces.
Glad you got you on.
Yeah, hit me up on Discord. We'll play some League sometime.
Probably about to go torture
I'm out of
myself right
practice.
now.
I'll do my best. I might be out of practice, but I can at least support.
Hey, I'll be your terrible jungler.
There we go. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your night. Don't be strangers. Hopefully, I'll hear from you guys again soon.
All right, peace
See
out.
ya.
Have a good night. Bye.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. We ain't got Tiny here to wrap us out, and it's weird.
Oh, no. What do we
But-
do?
I know. Thank you guys for listening to the Security Check podcast by the Cataclysmic Gamers. We'll catch you next time. Keep slinging that cardboard.